It's no secret that a few years ago, Counter-Strike's audio was terrible. The HRTF update last year improved things massively by helping you to pinpoint which direction sounds were coming from. This Occlusion update further builds upon the sound model by muffling and quietening sounds that come from behind walls. Firstly, I'd like to talk about a bug that was discovered last month, which I believe could have been responsible for this update. In a popular Reddit post, Jambo revealed that footsteps from behind walls wouldn't be heard if the player model wasn't being rendered. I wonder if this was a trade-off that Valve were aware of. You see, there was an even older update that was introduced to stop cheaters. Wall hacks can be used to see people through walls. This old update made it so that information about other players would only be sent to a player's PC if they had a direct line of sight with them. These visibility calculations are all done server-side, meaning that the cheater's computer would be getting literally no information about the players behind walls, rendering the cheats ineffective. You may have encountered this anti-cheat method if you've ever played a match with high ping. Sometimes you'll run around a corner and enemies will take a while to pop into view because it takes a while for the server to realise that you need the other player's information. It doesn't seem fair, but in a way, it's more so. And it shows that the anti-cheat is doing its job. However, with this information block in place, it does mean that footstep sounds are also out of the question, unless the server decides to send you them separately. This link between anti-cheat and the footstep bugs is just speculation on my part, but what I do know is that footsteps can now be heard even when a player's model isn't being drawn. This fix was rolled out just days after the bug was discovered and is separate from the Occlusion update. Now this isn't necessarily the case, but I wonder if the footstep fix was just a temporary solution and if the new Occlusion method is a more robust, cheat-resistant method of tackling the problem. But I'd like to make it super clear, this is all just speculation. It could be that Valve are nice and want to treat us to better audio and that its timing with the other bug is just a coincidence. Anyway, even without enabling Occlusion, I can show that this bug has been fixed and that the footsteps play regardless of whether the character model is being drawn or not. I made my own worst case scenario level comprising of 2 separate rooms. Now when I say these are separate, I mean it. There's empty space between them. Pure nothingness. A complete vacuum. Now technically sound shouldn't be able to pass through this in the first place, but for the sake of maps, it should be able to, since there is often an empty space like this between areas on a map. And indeed, it does. Even without Occlusion, so it shows that the footstep update is doing its job. I also noticed an awful lot of headshot sounds that shouldn't have been there. Turns out that if you fire a gun in a vacuum on CSGO, then not only does it violate the laws of thermodynamics, but you also get quantum bullets that are seemingly in 2 positions at once or something. Either that or 2 clicks focus cheating. It's been 3 minutes and 24 seconds and I haven't even started with the Occlusion yet. But I will now. If this same sequence I just showed is played again but with Occlusion enabled, you can hear the difference that it makes. The sounds are muffled and bassier. According to Valve's blog, this isn't just a cheap trick. It distorts the sounds based on the materials it's travelling through. And it's impressive stuff. The material type does make a difference, as well as the thickness. Strangely, wood doesn't muffle as much as stone when both are 16 units thick. It does a much better job when they're both 128. The sound even takes into account indirect paths, it seems. I've kept the closest wall transparent just so you know what's going on behind. Adding a roof didn't make much of a difference in this case, though if he were higher up towards the top of them then it would have. All in all, from the testing I did, I was impressed with the system. It's just that everything I tested raised more questions and I didn't have enough time to delve too deeply into everything. Just know that what Valve have done is pretty cool. Next up, I made another map to test the direction the sound comes from. Will it come directly from the shooter? Or can we hear echoes in this game? Because in reality, if we're stood here looking directly through the wall towards the shooter, then the sound should appear to come from the left as it's bouncing off the walls to reach you. The in-game sound debugger shows that this isn't the case, and here's a clip for you to hear it yourself. In other words, this is a limitation with the Occlusion model. It always comes from the direction of the shooter, when in reality the sound would appear to come from somewhere else. I'm not complaining though. Do we really want it to be harder to tell where sounds are coming from? We've just spent years moaning about that very issue. Honestly, I'm very impressed with the new system. It nicely calculates the distance and type of sound it is, and muffles it according to the number, thickness, material type and position of the walls around it. It's not quite as flashy as the Oriel A3D demo, but it suits CSGO's sound requirements nicely. It's better than I first gave it credit for, too. I repeatedly think that I've tricked it, only to find with further testing that I haven't, and it's more advanced than I expected. It doesn't just take into account the direct line between you and the sound source, but also the surroundings, and it muffles and distorts the said sounds accordingly. I don't know how else to put it. It just sounds right. Though I suspect that, at first, some people may not like it. Just like with HRTF. You'll just have to get used to this new sound system and to master the maps that you wish to play on. Do this, and I believe this new occlusion system will make the sound design more intuitive and precise than it has ever been before in Counter-Strike's history. This change is still in beta for now, but once it's rolled out for real, I'd expect it to be forced on for all players to keep it fair and balanced. Occlusion does make distant sounds quieter, especially if heard through surfaces, which will reduce what we can expect to hear from where we are stood within the level. Not that this is a bad thing. I think this update is a step in the right direction. It makes the audio more realistic, but only in the good ways. Much like HRTF, I think we'll soon take it for granted, but it will have a small but positive effect on every round of CSGO that's played from now on, especially on Nuke, which I'll end this video with examples of. It's a welcome improvement.